So this is the main square to the entrance of the Krakow Ghetto. This is where, against that wall right there, that wall right behind that red car, people were shot. He said children, my tour guide, children were lined up 5 in a row and shot and used only one bullet to kill all 5 of them. They lined them up. But this is the square. And this is that, there's a pharmacy right there, and an author, the owner of that pharmacy right there, was one of the authors of the book.
It's a whole different question, but on a lot of buildings there are faces, a little bit of funny faces.
This is because of the clove hole in the main market square. In the 16th century it was renovated in the Renaissance style, with those faces, which was a regular Renaissance finishing touch, and became kind of a traditional thing for Krakow. You will see them very often anywhere because it's kind of like one of the Krakowian things to do.
This is the border of the Krakow Ghetto, part of the wall. One of the 2 places that the wall is still remaining of the Krakow Ghetto. But that is just natural rock. And on the other side there is, that's the inside of the ghetto? On the other side, so we're outside the ghetto right now. The ruins of the guardhouse to the entrance of the concentration camp. Krakow. Plaszow. I don't know how you say it. I'll look it up later. But right there where that brick lane, and that's the entrance. And that's the guard camp.
From the quarries. But later, in 1944, when Hungary, which was an ally of Nazi Germany, suddenly decided to change sides, Germans simply invaded Hungary. And the Jews there were considered second-class citizens, but they weren't killed. The moment, of course, the Germans invaded Hungary, all the Hungarian Jews were sent to the occupied Polish lands. So many of them, going on the way to Auschwitz, stopped here. And some of them actually didn't go any further. Many Hungarian Jews were shot here in Plaszow. Actually, more Hungarian Jews were killed here than Krakowian Jews. We are roughly where the person is standing who's taking the picture here. Of course, this is not original. This used to stand here. This is the entrance to Ukraine, the barracks of the Ukrainian soldiers. Now, we can't see this bend here for a very simple reason. It's behind the trees. But this bend is basically in front of us. This is the SS Strasse. This building we will very soon see. This is the villa of Amon Goeth. This is from the other angle, basically. This is once again the entrance to Ukraine. Well, I think that makes it obvious. This was the part of the camp for the guards. Now let's enter the part of the camp for the inmates. For example, random piece. Can you guess what it was?
Entrance post, maybe.
Close enough. Of course, the camp was surrounded by barbed wire, but there were also divisions within the camp itself. That must have been one of the posts for the barbed wire, dividing the camp into whatever. But the more important bit is of course here. Remember I told you in the museum there was this set of 4 pictures with a beautiful building standing, and then suddenly the building is there no more. So just to remind you once again, this is the pre-burial house. Every Jewish cemetery has such a house. Of course, as the name implies, the dead is prepared for burial there. Now when the Krakow...
So this is part of that building?
Yeah, that's the ruins, exactly. Now
and it was bombed, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you in a second how it came to be. But what is also significant is the building itself, because the community of Krakow was 700 years old at the time. It was, historically important, blah blah blah. So when they established a new cemetery, they decided there should be a very modern pre-burial house that would be at the same level like the importance of the community itself. So they took a loan for 60 years and they built one of the most modern pre-burial houses, definitely in Central Europe, maybe even in Europe as such. Well, when the camp was being built here, this place was turned into stables, as the Nazis like to do with many religious buildings. And then, when Amon Good was introduced as the commander of the camp, he decided to introduce himself to the local bonzos. So he asked many important SS officers and Gestapo officers to come here. They were at his villa, champagne, eating, drinking happily and so on. And the clue of the evening was, of course, bombing this. Dynamite was set to it and the whole thing.
And that's how the commandant introduced himself to the
pretty much
prisoners.
Well, we can say. Of course, the introduction was mostly to the other German officials, but the prisoners, saw it as well. Actually, there were no prisoners yet. There were some prisoners, but this was before the liquidation. So still most Jews lived in the ghetto.
Oh, I see.
The problem was that many ancient scrolls of Torah were hidden in the attic, because the attic was closed by very strong iron doors. So when the place was leveled, the doors remained. They remained after the blast, but they were uncovered. So suddenly Germans, looking for the rubble, saw those iron doors. So they decided to look what's inside. Of course, all the scrolls were burned. They built those tunnels. Supposedly, the tunnels go all under the hill. But if you enter it now, it's just several meters and it's blocked. Supposedly, if you keep digging, eventually you're going to enter all the tunnels.
So the Germans built those tunnels to hide from the front.
If there would be an air raid, they would have a place to hide. It was never used. There were no air raids here. Because nowadays it's used by local drugs.
Yeah, I bet. Be careful, Mark.
Yeah.
It's such beautiful countryside, or at least that's what it seems like. But
Jews were killed. It was the Poles. This is the first spot of a mass execution. It's Polish people. And look at the date, 10th of September. 4 days after Germans entered, there was the first mass execution of Poles. The idea was very simple. Cut the head off. If you cut the head off, meaning you get rid of the good people, intelligent people, you will have just the mass. And the mass will follow the bad example if you set it right. And that's why also they choose the spot. Poles were killed on a Jewish cemetery. This is not a coincidence. Once again, divide and conquer. Poles were very often killed by Jews, officially. Of course, Jews were forced to do it, or at a Jewish spot, cemetery, synagogue. It was set of
human train.
Yeah, the idea was very simple. I told you that the quarry was very close, so the limestone was brought here, then it was put into wagons. I think you can see the wagon at the very end of the picture. Every wagon was between 2 and 4 tons of limestone, and the idea was very simple. 60 women in total, so 30 on both sides, had to transfer those 2 at least tons from roughly somewhere there all the way up the hill to the workshop. That was several hundred meters, and they had to carry within 12 hours they had to carry 12 times. So they had a bit less than 1 hour to carry at least 2 tons of limestone up there. When commission came from Berlin to check what's going on, they were not really happy with it. Not because women were mutilated and were dying, because it was not efficient enough. It was much more efficient to have a machine doing it, right? It's going to be faster and everything. But Amon Good was so proud of his invention, he said he doesn't care about efficiency. He enjoys the idea. But this is still the same place. The grey house was very well known in the camp for a very simple reason. Several of the main SS officers lived here. I'm going to tell you about 3 of them. The 3 main ones. The first one was called Hujar. Hujar was known as the hospital action hero. During the liquidation, of course, sick people were useless. So Hujar bravely entered the hospital. He started by killing the janitor, his wife, 4 children and a dog, so the whole family. And then he went through the ground level, first level and second level, killing everybody he met. Of course, most of the people who were sick were already killed by the personnel, meaning they were given poison, but he shot them just in case, and of course he shot all the personnel. After this, he was known as the hospital action hero. He also was known for happily executing people, and one of the execution spots bears his name. I'm going to tell you about it when we reach the execution spot. So that was our dear Hujar. By the way, he wasn't German, he was Ukrainian. I kind of sympathize with the owner of this place. I'm pretty sure he had no idea when he bought it.
So Amon Gur?
Amon Gut. Welcome to Amon Gut.
How do you say his last name?
Gut.
Good.
Yep. This is the real gentleman right here. Of course, with a rifle, because why not?
Can I take a picture?
Sure.
And so out the back here, I assume that's where the balcony is. Where
Exactly. Now, when it comes to the shooting, as you can see, there's a hill. He couldn't have been shooting people in the camp. You can see from the balcony a bit of the camp there. That was the Polish part of the camp. He wasn't shooting people in the camp. But as you can see, there was no building here. He could see what's going on down there in the street. He was shooting people building the SS Strasse. If they were not working too well. And by the way, the SS Strasse was built from the tombstones. It was paved with tombstones.
that other building that you just pointed out to us.
The building, like the foundations,
Yeah.
and this road. Once again, I'm on good. Those are the pictures made by Teach, the guy I told you, who was afraid of Odessa.
Oh yeah.
Here you can see him happily relaxing with one of his dogs. Yeah, he wasn't exactly... He was a wealthy man. You will see in the Schindler's List, Amon Gut, riding a horse, as you can see. It's a very true depiction in the film. He used to ride it. He actually loved horses very much. How much? I'm going to tell you soon. This is him with his Romanian lover. He left a wife and a child in Vienna, but he had several lovers here. His main one was a Romanian woman. And actually there's a very interesting documentary about their daughter.
Oh, what was the name of it?
The daughter of...
Nee,
Hitler's
children. Yeah.
Something like this. I can't remember, but just... Even on Google, if you put Amon Gut's daughter...
Yeah.
it's
And
very
I think she met a camp
Yeah.
inmate. Yeah.
Randomly met a camp inmate. She was asked about the numbers.
Yeah.
On his hand it was like...
I
and my father was Amon Gut, and the
Yeah.
guy almost wanted to kill her.
Right. Yeah, I think I saw that.
That's how she started digging into the past. So nice in 44.
No.
This is basically what you have here. That's what we see. What we don't see down there. Those. Wait. Here you have the trail of the Mannschaftszug, so the human train. So it's basically down here. The barracks were roughly here in front of us. This huge space is the Appelplatz, so the place for the roll calls, and it was there. Those barracks that you have above it, when you have the trees beginning, the line of trees beginning, those barracks were standing there. And unfortunately, in this picture, we don't have. Wait now. In this picture, we don't have the second part of the camp, so the one that goes further. What we see here is, first of all, you see those. Well, it looks like, if you're from Texas, it might look like the place where you get oil from.
wells.
Oil wells, of course, but these were the guard posts. There were actually 13 of them all around the camp. The quarry is behind those tall trees behind the ridge. Now, those barracks here were for the Polish inmates. This was the place where all of the inmates had to report every morning at 6. the barracks of the Jews were actually of the Jewish men were actually there, so they are not in this picture. And those barracks up there were female barracks.
And so that house right down there,
That's the grey house.
That's the gray house.
Yeah. So
okay.
it's basically, when it comes to the picture, it's right out of frame.
Yeah.
It's somewhere here.
And then over that way,
Was the Ukraine?
that was Amon Gurt's house.
No, Amon Gitz
No.
is there.
Oh, his
This
is
was
over there.
the Ukrainian guards.
Oh, okay, I see.
Now, when it comes to life in the camp, first of all, the barracks were 40 meters by 10 meters. They were actually pretty good barracks. They were built here by a barrack factory which was here in Krakow. It was run by a Polish guy actually. Well, what people don't remember, he saved 400 Jews. They didn't have to escape anywhere. They were here until Soviets came. 400 people saved by one Polish guy. Nobody remembers his name. He was this kind of guy who basically decided things have to be done well. He sent his best meisters. So when they were building the barracks, they were built well. Of course, they were small and everything, but they never collapsed. They never burned. As much as they could, they did. But the trouble was 10 meters on 40 meters at the beginning, 100 people living there. That's pretty good. Then 200, 300. It ended with 600 to 700 people living in a barrack of 400 square meters. So all the Jews from the camps had to dig out the bodies. Some of them were rotting in the ground for more than a year. They had to dig them out of here. They had to dig them out of there. Remember the toilet I told you about? They had to dig them out of shit after 1 hour and a half, after 1 year and a half of rotting in the ground. And then all of them were burned. Mostly they were burned here.
So just in a pile,
Yeah, on a beautiful
not in a
pile.
crematory.
Nope, on a pile.
And so this was still part of the concentration or the.
It is
the camp.
totally still the
All of this.
Yeah. So for example, the crematories, the plan was to build them down this road here.
Yeah. And so that's how they got rid of the bodies. They just burned them in a pile.
That's why there was kind of snow. In Schindler's List, it's shown, and it's very much exaggerated. It wasn't snowing right next to the castle. Absolutely not.
No, of course
It's
not.
snowing.
Yeah.
But it did snow in the camp. The inmates still remember. For several weeks, there were very strange snowflakes around the camp. This was, of course, the ashes of the bodies.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, how was that? I'm going there tomorrow to Auschwitz.
It's different.
How would you say it was different than today's?
There's more of it.
Yeah.
Here's nothing.
There's nothing here. But what about the the history? Did you get as much information like Matt is giving us?
Yeah.
Yeah? Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting some of that information. But this is basically where they dug a hole and buried them and burned them. The prisoners.
This is the general monument of the Jewish inmates. And of course, there's one extra monument here. Now notice the third from the bottom, it is Hitlerowski.
Yeah.
Can you see any word Nazi? Nazi stop, something like this. Nothing, right?
No.
There is a very good reason why there's not. I'm going to tell you in the epilogue why in Poland very often you're going to find the word Hitlerowski and not Nazistowski. It's a very good reason. And now let's go to the other side. You will see the front. It's a pretty cheap part of the city, so all the big halls come here. Now you can see that there's a row of 5. Remember the picture from the entrance of the camp when they were walking rows of 5? Exactly. So the faces are the same. They are bowed under a burden. You can also see their hearts are ripped out, so there's no more emotions left. Can you see a difference though between
The facial expressions.
Go above.
Yeah.
There's, well, kind of a bigger difference. Not in the faces actually.
The hands.
Yeah, actually, yeah, it does match. Look at it. Mouth, he's very sad, and it's as a fist like this. That
Yeah.
means he's given up. This one died. This one didn't. This one decided to go on against all odds. So that shows difference in attitude. So people just gave up. Some of them decided to live on, and they did.
And there you have a Home Depot.
There were no good Poles anymore. Most of them were killed, most of them died fighting, whatever the reason. Who you had living was those people who were collaborating. Many of them got, as a prize, they got, for example, Jewish property. Now suddenly, you know, the old owners come back. Stella remembers that when she went with her parents after the war to their house, there was somebody else living there, their old janitor, who knew them very well, but when he saw them, he said, "Oh, you're still alive, you were supposed to be dead." So as you can see, many people were not happy that the Jews are coming back. Regular people, because many of them had blood on their hands, but also the government wasn't happy, because suddenly we had the communists. And the communism is state property. So for communists it was very helpful that suddenly they had so many empty houses, because they could just give them to anybody as you know, as prizes for being helpful, or simply, you know, to anybody to gain support which they didn't have. So for example, the biggest post-war pogrom in Poland was in Kielce, which is a city 150 kilometers north of here. It was, of course, a Polish mob, but it was orchestrated by the Polish KGB. And the two main people in the Polish KGB in Kielce, one of them was actually Jewish, ironically.